Hello, everybody, and welcome to another iconic episode of A Good Lawyer Podcast, part of the EIL Network, Excellence in Lawyering. I am Stephen Garcia, your non-lawyer, coast-to-coast opinion host. And this is where I delve into the captivating world of brilliant legal minds, such as with our guest today, in hopes of enriching yours. Folks, we have a great one for you today. First time on the podcast. This gentleman is part of the Longhorn law firm. He's also the founder, and I want to get into this with him, of a foundation called Running Down a Dream. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot of things that I want to ask him. Just such an interesting individual and a great lawyer. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the podcast, SHAWN BARNETT. SHAWN, welcome to A Good Lawyer Podcast.
Yeah, Stephen, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here with you guys. And just share my story and answer any questions y'all got for me.
Okay, well, tell folks a little bit about your backstory. As we say here in Texas, where you sprung from and what got you steered in the direction of law.
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. I guess the love of the law comes from a passion of helping people.
Mhm.
I think that's what God put me on this earth to do. And like you mentioned, I started a foundation called Running Down a Dream to help kids. I did that even before I started going to law school. And my dad's actually an attorney down in Austin. So growing up, I told myself and told my family, I'm never going to be a lawyer. My dad's always pushing it on me. And, I always push back and I want to start my own business. I want to do this. I want to be a baseball player. Well, God didn't bless me with the 6 foot height genes. So, we're 5'8", rocking strong, and, ended up being a lawyer instead. But, I got a 1.8 GPA my first semester at UT Austin, and it was like a culture shock for me because I had never gotten bad grades in my life, and ultimately figured I need to figure out what I'm going to do in life because business school was not going to work out, and I had a passion for helping people. So my dad once again shot his shot, said, "Why don't you go be a lawyer?" And here we are today.
And you're speaking of the great Jeff Barnett, correct?
That is my dad. Yes, sir.
I believe, if I read correctly, 30 years practicing law.
Yeah, I graduated, it's either 29 or 30 years after he graduated law school. So it's quite the family legacy, I would say.
That's correct. It's a great legacy, I'm telling you. And you're carrying the torch, and you're doing a great job. Let me just say that. What's been the driving force for you? I know you've talked about, or you've talked openly about not wanting to become a settlement mill, if you will. You'd rather take on fewer cases and give your clients more attention. Tell us about that.
Yeah, ultimately, I've worked at settlement mill firms. I've worked at, TJH, Villarreal and Begum, the Law Guns, some of the biggest, most well-renowned law firms here, not only in Texas, but across the country. And, I've seen how they operate. I've seen, what clients give feedback towards their firms and how other attorneys see their firms. And ultimately, every client that I have has my personal cell phone number. So I want every single client that I have to be able to reach me at any time of the day, at any time of the night. I tell them at pretty much every intake that I have, I'm the one doing the intake. I tell them, hey, if you're up at 3 a.m. because you can't sleep, text me, give me a call. and I will do my absolute best to either get in touch with your doctor or help you find a new doctor if they're not answering your phone calls. Just kind of steer you in the right direction to make sure that your next night's rest is better than the one that you're currently experiencing. So,
What blew me away, quite honestly, is not too long ago, I happened to be in town in San Antonio, and we had, I guess, for some parts of the country, they would call it a baby tornado, but nonetheless, it did some damage. And what totally blew me away is I saw some footage of you literally on the scene of a place that just got hit and damaged, and you were there just trying to help folks out. And I said, I got to get this guy on the show because that is true advocacy, man. I'm telling you that is something you don't see often, and I want to give you some kudos for that because that really made an impression on me. And you're there telling folks, listen, if you've been affected by this storm, call me. If you've been affected in any other way, call me. That was awesome.
yeah, well, thank you for those words. I mean, tornadoes have a little like soft spot in my heart. Not to go too off script, but my grandparents live in Joplin. They grew up and lived in Joplin most of my life. And about 10, 15 years ago, probably 15 years ago now, they had a huge EF5 tornado, mile wide. You know, across the street from my grandparents' house. I remember I was about 10, 12 years old, and I visited my grandparents. I would do it every summer. And literally their backyard, and then across the street, there are no homes. Everything is wiped out from a mile that way. And so from that day on, I had a very good like few years where I was storm chasing myself. Anytime a storm came through, I was fascinated by storms. I still am. And so storms are destructive, and it's not just, from the wind. It's not just from the debris flying around. With any tornado comes lots of rain, flooding. We've seen it a lot here in San Antonio, Kerrville. Just a year ago, we had the big Kerrville floods, and um, tons of deaths from that. And, things like that are tragic. So every storm system affects people in different ways, whether that's from wind damage and, insurance companies either not paying out because of that, or, we're seeing that a lot in California right now from wildfires. And storm systems affect people in many ways, and I'm here to protect people's rights, people's livelihoods in any way that I can.
And I'm glad you brought that up because as far as the insurance companies, sometimes you know better than I would, but during a crisis situation such as those and others, sometimes they do the right thing. Sometimes they step up and do what they're supposed to. But there are times, for example, when these things happen, the insurance companies choose not to do the right thing and not pay these folks what they deserve, what they need, more importantly, what they need. And I think that's where you come in. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're spot on there. I think it's also more telling that, some of the biggest insurance companies are the worst ones at this. And, it's really sad to see how it affects different families. And I know here in Texas and New Mexico where I'm licensed, there's a lot of people who drive around with no insurance, and there's a lot of people who just carry no insurance, unfortunately. And so it's unfortunate for the people who do have insurance that are paying every month, paying every year. And whenever they need the insurance company the most, the phone calls don't get picked up. So, you have to hire an attorney like myself for property damage insurance, um, attorneys to swoop in and do what we can. But it's an everyday occurrence that I'm seeing negligent insurance companies just not handling claims properly.
And that's a shame because they love taking your money for the premiums, right? But it's almost like they're told not to pay out, seemingly.
No, and I'm seeing it even today. I mean, we're dealing with some adjusters, and some of these companies, they hire like third party companies, claim services companies, to then go to the insurance adjuster, and then they have to go back to the company. So it's insane that they want to spend money on these third party, intermediaries in order to try and keep things off of their books, but they don't want to go the extra step to care for the people that pay them every single month.
It's almost like they're playing hot potato with your policy and your claim.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So in Texas, and I'm glad you brought that up too, as far as you're licensed in both New Mexico and Texas, correct?
So I'm licensed in Texas federal courts.
Okay.
I am licensed in all courts in New Mexico.
Okay.
In a couple of years, I'll get my reciprocity um, license here in the state of Texas, but I am not yet licensed in Texas as a statewide attorney.
Okay. But you could potentially take on cases from Texas, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I work with a local counsel here in San Antonio. I work with Jonathan Perez Law Firm, and in Austin, my dad's law firm, Barnett and Ludi. So I partner with both of them. If I have cases that I'm going to need to handle here in state court, I partner with them to help me handle those.
That's amazing. That's great. Where I was going with that is that in Texas, what I've read up on, and I could totally be wrong on this, but they used a modified comparative negligence rule, if you will, the 51% bar, right? While New Mexico uses the comparative negligent rule. What are the difference? And can you tell my audience and explain to myself as well, what does that all mean?
Yeah, so in Texas, there is, like you said, kind of like a bar, a threshold that plaintiff lawyers and plaintiffs have to get over in terms of a jury and in terms of a judge ultimately, so that it gets to trial. That the defendant is at least or more than 51% at fault. If if the jury comes back and finds that the plaintiff pulled out too far into a lane and when they were turning out of a grocery store and they clipped someone in the second lane, and they say that the plaintiff was 51% at fault or more, then you cannot recover. So in New Mexico, that changes a little bit. It's what I would call is more friendly to the plaintiff. Say the plaintiff is 51% at fault. Well, they can still recover 49% of whatever damages they incur from that crash. They're still on the hook for 51% of whatever those claim damages are, but they can still recover the other 49%.
That is interesting. And I don't think a lot of people know that, but I have received, and I really want to get this out. I get a lot of emails from people because I want people to give me the questions to ask the legal experts because ultimately, this is why I do this for my audience. And so many of them feel like they've been in a horrible accident, right? Through no fault of their own, and they are severely injured. But then and I want to preface this by saying love our law enforcement men and women that are out there protecting us every single day, even while we sleep. But sometimes they may get it wrong when it comes to accidents, right? Because they're human. But where I'm going with that is that so you have these folks that are injured in an accident, sometimes very tragically and catastrophically. But then on top of that, and compounded with that, then you have a law enforcement officer handing you a ticket that you're responsible for this accident. Now, should people just take that blindly, so to speak, and not do anything about it? Or should they contact you, the expert?
I would say that anytime you have a legal issue and you're unsure about what to do, call an attorney. You don't have to hire an attorney. People like me and most personal injury attorneys work on a contingency fee basis. So you don't have to pay us a dime, which is really nice, especially in cases where you don't know what the outcome might be or if you're at fault at all, or you've been written a ticket and you don't think that you should have been written a ticket based on the facts that happened. Maybe you got injured, the cop wrote you a ticket, never heard your side of the story, you got rushed to the hospital, and then a cop comes to you in the hospital and hands you a ticket that you were following too closely or something of that nature. But there was a whole accident in front of you that occurred and you just didn't have time to stop because it happened right in front of you. That's a very common occurrence. So yeah, I would say that anytime that you're unsure, I mean, there's no reason to accept liability or accept fault or accept a ticket because it's going to change a lot of things in your life, not just surface level. I mean, there's your insurance policy is likely to go up. You're going to have to spend time doing defensive driving. You're going to have a potentially conviction on your record. So there's a lot of ways that something as small as a ticket can affect your life.
And the heartbreaking part is some of the horror stories that I've heard, where someone has been, or their loved one has been critically injured, sometimes worse, uh, we'll say even physically challenged through these horrible accidents. And then they're told they're responsible for this accident and take that and just say, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to pay for all these medical bills myself and on, right? You can imagine like, as you were talking about, the domino effect that this has on your life. Uh, but then when they take it to an actual legal expert, a true lawyer such as yourself, and they do their own investigating, you do your own investigating, and so on and so forth. And you come to find out that no, in fact, they were never at fault in the first place. And that's what I think. There's so many people, a faction of people that are out there that just take that and don't do anything about it.
Yeah, and I like to use myself as an example in something like this. And I think it's something that kind of sets myself apart from other personal injury attorneys is I've been a victim of multiple car accidents. Honestly, myself, and when I was in high school, you did not want to be around me when I was driving. But in the past few years, I mean, about 3 years ago, I got hit by a drunk driver on the wrong side of the road. And
Oh
the next
no.
day, I call and I make a claim, and they denied my claim. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you were drunk and on the wrong side of the road. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, the person who set up the claim. And I was like, that was me. And they were like, yeah, well, I'll get in touch with the investigator and we'll take this back under investigation. And, you know, 3 months later, I've hired an attorney. They finally accept liability, but it's insane what these insurance companies try and do to spin it on yourself. And, just 10 months after that, I got hit by an 18-wheeler who entered the highway in Austin from the second lane. The
Oh,
guy
wow.
the guy was a couple feet from the entrance ramp, and I'm in the left lane, and I had nowhere to go because there's a guardrail right here, and the guy just darted in front of me, and I'm like honking my horn, and his trailer clips the passenger side of my car, and yeah, I mean, the guy tried to tell his boss, and I don't know what he told the police over the 911 call, but the police never came. They said it was going to be like 3 hours for them to show up, and it was already 2 in the morning. I had just gotten off work. I was ready to go home. He told his boss I was high and drunk.
Jeez.
I was like, dude, what are you talking about? This guy's suffering in jail for the rest of his life. He got convicted of kidnapping and murdering a sex worker, so he had bigger
Oh
problems.
my God.
He got bigger problems on his hands, but yeah, no, just tell
Wow.
you a little bit of what goes on in business offices around the country, and what defendants tell their insurance companies to try and make sure that their insurance rates don't go up.
Oh my God. So you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's I mean that is incredible. And so that automatically puts you in a different category because you can actually identify with what they're going through. And what's that phrase? Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. You definitely have experienced that for sure.
And yeah, and I know, I've been in all types of doctors' offices. I a lot of providers will walk into our offices and try and shoot their services at our office, and you know if a client ever asks me where they should go, I'm never going to recommend a place if I've never seen it.
Mhm.
I'm not going to send any recommendation to a client, and I have 200, 300 providers all over San Antonio alone that I could recommend to a client. But if I haven't seen your place, if I don't know what it looks like, I'm not going to send a client your way, because I don't want a client to come back and say, I don't feel better. I know what it's like when a client tells me I can't even stand up for more than 5 minutes, because that was me. I had sciatica problems. I'm a 11-time marathoner now, 14-time half marathoner. I've done triathlons. I've done everything. But for 2.5 years, I was unable to run a marathon because of these accidents. And it totally changed my life. It changed my perspective. It changed my mindset. It changed everything. And I can walk clients through my experience, and I think that gives me an interesting perspective to try and help them go through what they're going through.
100%. Because I mean, you can relate to everything they're going through. Yeah, I get that. Um, and that's important, and that will resonate with the client big time because they don't have to convince you that they're in pain. You know they're in pain. Uh, Take us into the mindset and emotions that you have when you're having one of the hardest conversations where you're explaining to a catastrophically injured client that there simply is not enough insurance coverage to fully compensate them, even when their injuries are so severe.
Yeah, and I think that is another place where I have some interesting perspective, because I've gone through all types of treatments. I still suffer from back problems, neck problems. Last night, I popped 3 Advil at about 1 a.m. just to go to sleep. So I mean, just because I settle a case, my case got settled. I collected some money. It doesn't make my life any better. Now the pain isn't as bad as it once was, and I thank God for that. But thankfully, I mean, medical treatments have advanced so much in the past 10, 15, 20 years, that there are different treatments. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different treatments that you can go through. And that's what's great about, knowing so many providers. And over the last 6, 7 years that I've been doing this, I have seen what different providers can offer different clients. And if a client expresses to me that they're having a certain issue, whether that's headaches, I can send them to a neurosurgeon, or if they're having sciatica pain, and it is a smaller insurance policy. And I know it's a smaller insurance company or policy based on maybe the company that it is defending it, or there are other ways to know what the policies are in today's day and age. So we can send them to different treatments, such as like spinal decompression machines. That's something that, shoot, I need to go today to go get my spine pulled and pushed back together. But that's a special treatment that I think is really, really powerful, and it has been for me, and I know other people as well. That is on a cheaper side, but it does wonders for clients.
And again, this is you have the firsthand experience of going through what treatments may or may not work, right? And you've been through them. You've been through the whole gamut of what's going on in your clients' cases. Um, and I guess I've heard the term used that every case has fleas, right? It's just how infested is this case, right? Is the dog still a dog, or is it just one giant flea now? So, is there a point how you evaluate which cases you are going to take? For instance, you have a client, and I'm looking at this from the mindset of a jury standpoint, where you have a likable guy or gal, but with horrible facts, and then you have a very unlikable guy or gal, but with excellent facts. Which one excites you more?
Honestly, I mean, I treat every case the same, and honestly, the worse the facts, the harder that I have to work, to be frank with you. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, every case is different. I think that's what excites me so much about being in this profession. I personally suffer from ADHD and have since I was in first grade, and so I always need something going on in my life. I need to be doing something, otherwise I'm going to be sleeping. Um, and yeah, so I mean, I worked at the DA's office for when I was in law school, and I did that for over a year, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, I don't know how many drug cases I saw. So, uh, you know, personal injury, and I just how I'm kind of like a storm chaser. I love investigating. I love going to different stores to see if there's video coverage. I love fighting over discovery. Defense uh, defense attorneys hate whenever they have to face me at a discovery conference in front of a judge, because I'm gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure that everything gets turned over. So I think that there are good clients. I always love my clients, and I'm gonna try and coach them up to to be the best client that they can be. And I think part of that is expectation setting, because people see billboards everywhere. They expect certain things to be done right away. They expect $200 million on their case.
Yeah.
And so it's about setting those expectations, letting them know what the process is actually like. And, not everyone hits the jackpot every time they get hit by a car. So I wouldn't call necessarily people bad clients. Now, there are people who are very irritable, but um, it's all about setting expectations. And I think as long as clients understand their expectations and what the end goal might be. Now, I always ask my clients, everyone's in it for a reason, whether they want a lot of money or they just want to feel better. Like after I got hit by the 18-wheeler and I couldn't stand up, I told my attorney in that case, I just want to feel better. I said, I don't care if you get me $1 back, but I just want to be able to run again.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to live life the way even I was close to living a year ago. And so every client is different. Every client probably wants to feel better. Not every client is going to feel better, but hopefully we can put some money in their pocket so that the pain that they're experiencing, maybe it comes down a little bit knowing that they got some money back.
And I think a lot of folks out there that are in similar situations, for example, they see a billboard and they come in with this expectation that they're going to get 50 million, 60 million. But what I think they lose in this conversation or this mindset is that they should be thanking God that you're not talking to their estate. You're in fact talking to them now, because those kind of figures often deal with something extremely tragic, a loss of life, uh, your your physicality being challenged now, right? You're not able to do the things that you normally do. Hold your grandson, hold your kid, that kind of thing. So when they see that, they say, "Hey, I want that. I want $60 million too." They if they knew what what got them to 60 million, they wouldn't take that. They opt for good health. I remember one just a lawyer from a very long time ago. She did a lot of med mal, and she always had that saying that your good health is better than any lawsuit. And I think a lot of folks lose sight of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, back in the day when I was in college and I was broke, I would joke around with my dad and my friends, I can't wait for an 18-wheeler to hit me. And I was like, I don't want to be hurt from it that bad, but I just want to get tapped. And, maybe I foreshadowed it, but God, I would do nothing to go back and to be unhit again,
Hmm.
because the ways that it has changed my life. And I mean, it's there was weeks that I couldn't even, go to my foundation for kids, the run club. And
Right.
turns out the third week of another run club that I started for adults called Dreamers Run Club, the third week of the run club was the day I had back surgery. And you know not being able to run with the people. And at that time the run club was taking off. We had over 100 people week 3. By week 8 we had 350 people. So it's the loss of community, it's the loss of ability, and the doubt that starts creeping in your head when you can't do the things that you want to be able to do. But at the same time, I was at a funeral less than 2 weeks ago for a guy who got hit by a drunk driver and fell off an overpass. So it's the same moments that I have to think and remind myself about that what I'm going through is not even a little bit minuscule of the things that, that son and that family are going through. And, I've unfortunately handled cases where babies die in the back seat and, things like that. It's so tragic. And just being able to console families, my dad always told me being a lawyer is like being a counselor, and they call us counselors too. That's our nickname as lawyers, but we are just glorified counselors.
That yeah, that's I don't know how these first responders come back from that. It's a special, takes a special person when you're arriving on a horrible scene, and then you find out there's little kids that have been uh, injured or worse, right? And you have to see that. I don't. I know you can't unsee things, right? Something like that, and emotionally as well. And so, yeah, it's just it's a horrible thing, and that's why we try to get as much information out there to people, and like, hey, don't drink and drive. Uh, if you've had too many, there's too many options nowadays for someone not to drink and drive. So when you do it, it just does not make sense at all. So we try to advocate for that as well. We spent some time talking about the great Sean Barnett, the lawyer. I want to ask about Sean Barnett, the man himself, right now. What would people closest to you say about you if they were to remove the lawyer equation? Let's just ask, hey, I just met you. What have you? Hey, what do you think about Sean Barnett? And remember, we're taking the lawyer part out. What would people say about you?
I think people would say that I'm an organizer. Like we briefly mentioned, I have one of the largest run clubs in the probably Texas, which ultimately it's one of the largest ones in the country. And we started that about 2 years ago. The community has been awesome. We've had over 10,000 people come out to our events.
Wow.
Um, that was just a little over a year, about a year and a half's time. So I couldn't even imagine what it is now if we were to add it up. Unfortunately, not everyone signs in whenever we ask them to, but um, I've always been someone who gravitates to groups of people, whether that's playing baseball growing up, playing football growing up, whether that's running in my dad's run club growing up. I've always been someone who lived and died by community. And I think that part of that too, and if you've seen my Instagram, I talk about it briefly, but I want to talk about it more, is being bullied as a young kid, and not to take it back to being an attorney, but I don't like when people are bullied or taken advantage of. And I had that, my senior year of high school. People broke into my house because my dad was out of town and I was staying with my mom, and they knew that because we were at a high school party around Christmas. Come to find out, they were living at my dad's house for like 6 days. My
Oh
neighbors called the
God.
cop, and so it's something that affected me to the point where now I love building community. So I think that's probably the number one thing that people would associate me with, you know, just walking around the town. But yeah, I just love bringing people together.
And that would be hence your toll free number, right? 844 no bull. I love that.
Exactly.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, we want to put the way to get in touch or sign up for the Running Down a Dream and the new foundation you've got going as well for adults, correct?
Yeah, it's all ages. I mean, shoot, we even have some of my kids, the ones who love running. It's called Dreamers Run Club. We meet every Monday night at 7 and Friday mornings at 6 a.m. all over town here in San Antonio. Hopefully, we'll be out in Albuquerque in a few months. Just opened up an office out there, so I'll be up there a little bit more, and yeah, just ultimately trying to bring people together. The Kids Run Club, it's called Running Down a Dream, and we take kids on runs every Saturday morning. We track kids' times, and every time they get faster, they get $5. So it's
That
a
is
cool
so
little.
great.
It's so cool to see them beat their time by 20, 30 seconds every week, and see them fight, and it's the finish that they bring. So even if you know they're not having their best run, we make sure that they're finishing strong, and um just trying to teach the kids at a young age, what it means to work on yourself, to better improve yourself, not just physically, but mentally, and also just improving kids' lives in terms of community, in terms of having someone to talk to, whether that's another kid their age, another kid who's a few years older than them, or an adult, because we have coaches who run with the kids every week. So it's a great experience, and we've been doing that for a little over 4 years now, and it's been real fun to just. I mean, I have kids that started being pushed in a jogger by their parents, and now they're running 5Ks with us. So it's really cool to see.
That is super, super impressive. We definitely want to help promote both of those causes for you as well. If anybody out there listening ever finds themselves in a situation where they're needing expert legal advice from you, or even if they just have a legal question for you that they're not sure of, as we talked about a little bit earlier, they've been handed a citation that they're responsible for an accident, a tragic accident that they know for a fact they didn't cause. How can folks reach out to you and just try to get some decent legal help?
Yeah, like you mentioned, my phone number is 844
Mhm.
no bull, which is 844-666-2855. You can shoot me a text anytime at 512-744-1704. And I'm available 20. I make myself available 24/7. Um, if I'm not getting back to you, it's probably because I'm on the phone or in a meeting or at a run somewhere. But I am accessible. If I hear in my headphone, incoming call, I'm gonna answer it. Whenever I say that I'm accessible, I mean it. And people can also find my website. It's longhorn-law.com. There's a lot of information on there. I built it out myself. There's over 400 pages of information built into that website, from FAQs to different pages based on where you live or where the accident occurs and what the laws are in that county, state, things like that. So there's a lot of information there, and I would probably point people to the website.
That's super, super impressive. Sean, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I think that's a great place for us to leave it for today, but I definitely want to continue the conversation with you in the very near future and throughout season 4 here. We are heading into our fifth season coming up here shortly, but we definitely want to continue the conversation with you. So thank you so very much.
No, thank you guys, and well. I would love to be back anytime. Happy to answer any questions. And my journey as an attorney is barely getting started. I've been licensed for about a year now, and I'm a young attorney. I'm learning every day. There's plenty of attorneys out there who know more than me, but I dare you to find the one that's going to work as hard as I will. So there's so much to this story that is is unwritten, and I can't wait to share more with you going forward.
We've just touched on the surface here. So we know there's so much more, and we want to be with you throughout this journey as well. And his motto is true, folks. He's with you through it all. And he's also working his off to save yours. So once again, Shawn, thank you so very much. If you don't mind just standing by for a few seconds, I got to say goodbye to the audience real quick, but I'll be right back with you.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn Barnett is the real deal, folks. And like I said, he is with you through it all. His toll-free number, 844 no bull. And that is something he takes to heart. He means it. And just let that resonate with you, folks. This is the kind of representation you are going to receive when you give Shawn Barnett a call. Folks, there's a lot of doom and gloom going on out there in the world today. You see it on TV, social media, even now in the streets. So do yourselves a favor. Get out there and love somebody today. I will see y'all up the road. I love y'all. I will forever.